So, welcome at a new recording of the Workplace Ninjas Netherlands podcast. Also available on YouTube if you are not aware of that. And today I'm talking with the guys of the Workplace Ninja community, and we are hosting a session about the Ignite updates. So guys, welcome. Who do I have on the table? Let's start on this side of me.
Eric Loof, focusing on security today.
And next?
Peter Aalmans, focusing on everything about Intune.
Is it Intune again?
Yeah, it's it's Intune again.
And next?
Kenneth van Zeuxem, focusing everything modern workplace. Yeah.
And my name is Frans Oudendorp, and I will try to do some extra additional things around security. And so let's move on. First, there were a few updates about Entra identity. Kenneth, what was the most important thing for you?
Well, for me, and that was actually already announced before Ignite started, was the authentication strength option that we have now within conditional access. It will really help us to move away from less secure MFA methods and start using more secure MFA methods like FIDO authentication methods, or enforce the usage of the Microsoft Authenticator app.
Yeah, and also there's some conditional access the updates.
Yeah, so things like what was it called? Conditional access for SharePoint, OneDrive, and
The authentication context.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what the naming eventually will be, we'll never know. But that's now generally available as well.
Yeah, and I saw some announcements around some hybrid things with certificates probably.
Yeah, certificate-based authentication is available. Eric was really enjoying that moment because he actually mentioned that he was already using that. But the main idea is that it's now generally available say so.
I had a demo in June with by using the certificates in the certificate-based authentication on your on-prem and using that to your cloud and using that to the Wi-Fi.
Indeed, yeah. So a lot of new options there. Main reason for actually making this now generally available was, of course, to provide one reason more to get rid of ADFS.
Yeah. Peter, what was for you the most important thing on Ignite this year?
Oh, there were a couple, but I start laughing. And mainly, the biggest announcement was that we will be leaving Microsoft Endpoint Manager brand behind us, and now everything is back to Microsoft Intune. So for that reason, I announced myself everything about Intune.
Yeah, so finally we're back to Intune. But what does that mean for Intune as a product, but also for Configuration Manager, for example?
Yeah, officially it's Intune. Microsoft Intune is the family name of endpoint management, and for Intune it's all about cloud-based management, and in that part of the family. Also Microsoft Configuration Manager, formerly known as Microsoft Endpoint Manager, Configuration Manager, or System Center Configuration Manager. It's now Microsoft Configuration Manager. It's all about the on-prem management of Windows devices.
And what was that was rebranding? What was technically the most important thing?
I think technically is the feature to the privileged access on workstation. So basically giving on-demand a user permissions to perform a task for a certain amount of time. And that will be an advanced feature of Microsoft Intune, which is going to be released, I think, in the March time frame of next year. But I think that for me, that was the biggest announcement, and where a lot of people customers are waiting of, because they want to get rid of local admins.
Where you say advanced, you mean premium?
Yeah, it's in the most of the features in all other products. It's called Premium, but I think, let me look it up. I think for Intune it was the advanced management features or something like that.
Yeah, but probably
But it's-
advanced
yeah.
or premium. But
It will
there's
cost a little bit of money to get access to those.
And
Yeah.
that's the main idea. It will cost you extra if you want to leverage that functionality. And we see that over the whole product stack because we also have seen an announcement for Teams advanced functionality, where customers are going to pay more if they want to leverage that functionality as well.
Yeah, but that premium functionality is available on top of E5, but also on top of E3. So
Indeed.
you have premium functionality based on the based on the license that you already have.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and for Intune, there's no E3 or E5. That's just Intune, which
Yeah.
is part of the E5 or E3 or whatever suite. But it's called Advanced Endpoint Management Solutions.
Yeah, and what are the components within the advanced things? There is the tunnel component for mobiles.
Yep. Yeah, for mobile application managed apps.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have MDM anymore. Currently, if you want to use Microsoft Tunnel, you need to enroll your device into MDM as of Microsoft Intune. As from next year, you can also use Microsoft Tunnel on only apps that are purely managed by Intune. Remote help for Android is going to be part of it, together with Windows. The endpoint privilege management discussed earlier, and some advanced endpoint analytics features.
Some or the full stack?
No, some, because there is already, I don't want to call it basic version of endpoint analytics, because it's really helpful for a lot of customers. This extra license will give you more in-depth sight in what's going on, all based on IA and machine learning and so on.
Yeah. Announcements around AVD or Windows 365? Someone? Erik?
Yeah, let's do this. Because AVD is in the Netherlands a product everybody embraces, because we are RDS and we are a Citrix country. Let's talk about Citrix. Citrix is now available for Windows 365. So you can add the Citrix components to Azure Virtual Desktop Windows 365. And there is a store app to use Windows 365 on your laptop. Instead of installing it, you can look it up in the store and enable it.
And there's a funny story about that Windows 365 app.
Yes, lately, maybe you know Christian Brinkhoff. He's emigrated to the USA, to Seattle, and is one of his features he has worked on. And Satya named it in the keynote. He was very proud of it, that his feature was announced in the keynote.
Yeah, a few weeks back, we had a conversation with Christian at the Workplace Ninjas Switzerland, where he told us, please look at the keynote, because there is some additional functionality that is part of my job that will be presented in the keynote.
And the last feature, which is very important for me, and I think for everybody, the single sign-on with your Azure AD. It's not an official Ignite announcement. It was announced before, but it's a very common feature everybody wants to have, I think.
So we can finally now have a Windows 11 multi-session based on Azure AD only with single sign-on, the full stack. It's in preview at the moment, I thought, but we can use it already.
Indeed.
Yeah. And in the security space, Erik, what was the biggest announcement for you?
Now, first of all, there are not that really big announcement for myself. The expectations were a little bit higher than they were, but I think for my personal experience, the ransomware detection, the real-time detection of a ransomware, that was one capability. I think that's really important, what's happening now for the customers. And the second one is the IoT, OT is what Microsoft added, because the endpoints with the EDR solution, with the P2, they do a good job. Now they enabled all the OT, the IoT, about your Honeywell cameras, all that kind of stuff, that you can bring that on to your Sentinel workspace, and you can have a complete view of your complete IT infrastructure. That, for me, were the two biggest announcements that were impact for me.
Yeah, we have already Defender for OT, Defender for IoT. We know that already a few years. Microsoft didn't acquire a company for that, but now there is an integration within Sentinel to get you full ecosystem in one product, so you can do stuff with the security analyst. They can do the job. You can be alerted from one thing. One thing for me, when looking at and I'm looking into what your things are about that, is the cloud security posture management that was also announced on Ignite. What is that? What can we do with that?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing is that it's also a multi-cloud vision about from Microsoft. It's with the cloud is not. I'm not really familiar with that, but maybe Frans can help me to get the deep dive of it. But one of the things, Microsoft also has a slide with all the systems, and in the security space, you have the one slide which explains the high-level meaning of Microsoft and security. And they said, hey, there are 50 plus applications inside this, and then one of the rings was multi-cloud. And I think that's the new thing of Microsoft, which is central and is becoming bigger and bigger. But the cloud security posture manager, I think, Frans, you can explain it better than me.
Maybe, but the cloud security posture management with also AWS, Google Cloud, we can connect them to Defender for Cloud, and with that we can get the inside details about VMs, about workloads, what are the vulnerabilities of that. That is mainly part of threat and vulnerability management, what we already know within Defender. There is an add-on up that is announced a few months earlier, but if we can combine that sort of products into each other, then we have a full overview of your cloud security posture management, and to see what happens in your environment if you do the right stuff and all that sort of thing. So I think it's a nice move into get more details about your own environment, and not only in your normal Windows environment, not only in your Azure environment, but also in your other cloud stuff that you're using.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw also an announcement about DevOps.
Yeah. Defender for DevOps, and it's a Defender system that looks at your code. For example, if you're using a username and a password in your script, or in what happened in your repository, and it gets some advice, please use Azure Key Vault for this. And that's a new way of looking at your code. There also was an AI about syntax. The question is, are we coding in the future? But okay, the Defender for DevOps was a new announcement about secure code, because that's where the vulnerabilities begin.
Yeah, and if a vulnerability has been detected in code, you will be announced within DevOps. But also, if you are using a password instead of a key vault, for example, that is also announced in your DevOps dashboard, so you can see and you can handle on that. When looking at Intune, we can call it again Intune.
Yeah. I never stopped using Intune.
No,
and use it always in a mix.
Yeah, and I think it's a logical step to move back to Intune, because when I talk to customers, and then don't know how it's on your side, but when I talk to customers about managing Windows or Mac, for example, they still use the word and Intune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's probably also used when people are doing Google searches on finding functionality, etc. So it seems like a logical step to actually do that renaming again.
Yeah. And are there other things that are added to the Intune part for managing endpoints?
Yeah, we briefly discussed the remote help features. On Windows, it's already there for quite some time. In March, there will be also support for Android, so you can remotely take over and manage your Android devices. And for end-user device, that can be helpful. Currently, you can use third-party products for it or Teams. But if you have like a special purpose device, then it becomes more difficult to take over a screen or the device, and then remote help will be definitely helpful.
And remote help is available for Android and for Windows.
Yeah.
We have also macOS that we can manage with Intune. Linux is announced. What does that mean?
The announcement of support of Linux is basically the fact that you can enroll an Ubuntu Linux distribution based on version 20.04 and 22.04. And after you enroll the device, you can basically calculate the compliance state of the device. You can check if the right version is available, or if a strong password is configured, or you can use bash scripts to dive deeper into the operating system to check if settings are configured correct. If it's correct, then the device is marked as compliant, and then conditional access kicks in, allows access to, for instance, Office, the web apps of Office. If the device is not compliant, then you will be blocked access. One note is that it's only supported for Ubuntu desktop versions. So
until now, yeah, probably they will invest some time to make that more useful for other Linux distros as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that will be a broader list.
Did we miss the biggest announcement, Kenneth? Microsoft 365.
Yeah. Well,
there was sometimes there was an app, Word or
indeed. What Microsoft now finally announced, that actually the Office 365 brand will disappear, and everything will be rebranded under the Microsoft 365 naming. We have seen that already with, of course, the Microsoft 365 apps, which were called Office, of course. And they are more and more branding that under the Microsoft 365 pillar, which is a good idea because it's more than Office nowadays. And one of the things that we discussed in our meeting before as well was that actually now the Office 365 app, where we can actually work within different kind of documents, is now going to be replaced by the Microsoft 365 app.
Yeah.
Probably containing more functionality in the future as well.
And what we have discussed in the meeting up front was also AI. AI is a big component in everything Microsoft.
Yeah.
What does that mean for the products that we use nowadays?
Well, I personally think that people will get the opportunity to work smarter by using the information they get from the AI system. Things like in a Teams meeting, discussing something, me telling, hey, I'm going to pick that up, that being translated into maybe a to-do in my to-do app, that will actually really help to do stuff. And it will finally maybe free us from creating notes during the meeting, creating extended reports, and have all the information discussed during a meeting, for example, available afterwards, so that it's clear that who needs to do what in order to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish.
Yeah, one of the main key things that was highlighting for me on Ignite, there was Teams. You name it already. Teams with AI. There was I don't know who it was, but it was someone presenting on a desk in a full room, and then noise cancellation was set disabled, and the room was clapping and making loudness and so on. And then you saw the noise cancellation when it turned on, only the voice of the person was in front of that laptop that was coming through. So your Teams meeting, and we made a joke already. If you're on the Grand Prix in the next season, probably you can have a Teams meeting without all the noise on the background.
Indeed. So for of course, listening to Teams meetings, we can now use headphones with noise cancellation. But when talking, we still have that background noise which is there.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we miss something? SharePoint, for example. We had a discussion on the SharePoint renaming, the tenant renaming, Erik.
Yes.
Did you have experience with that already?
Yes, I had to do it once, but it was in the public preview because companies take over other companies and they want to rebrand then the company, the tenant name to another name. In the past, there was a headache for the IT system admin because you have to migrate the complete tenant to a new tenant, and that's a pity. That is really hard work. How can you do this? You have to change all laptops to the new Intune, etc., etc. You can rename the SharePoint because every OneDrive link, the customers, your link you send to a guest or a customer, you see the old name. That if you don't want that, then you have to. You can use now the rebranding. It works. And it set a URL redirector, so you're using then two SharePoint names.
Yeah, the old one will still be active, and there was a new forward that will be displayed for everyone who access a specific resource.
Yeah,
yes.
And of course, newly created links will be created under the new name in that case.
Yeah,
and old links keep on working. That's very important.
Forever, or is there a time limit?
Forever, because you're just occupying two names now.
Cool.
To finish up, there was a lot of noise about Ignite, about the conference itself. 2 days with the money that you have to spend and all the digital, in-person things. Are there any thoughts about Ignite 2 days in Seattle?
I wasn't able to go, mainly because of family and business. But for me personally, it was hard to keep up during the night because you have your customers. I love to go to an event, an in-person event, and attend at the location, so you're not being distracted by other things. And you can focus on the sessions, but hopefully we will be back fully in person, or maybe more in person than online in the next years.
It was more hybrid than in person, so
Digital.
probably more hybrid, digital than in person, and probably that will be moving into more in person, but hybrid and digital will still exist, I think.
Yeah, I remember the MVP summit a couple of years ago was in person, and they allowed people to watch also online for people who couldn't join. But I think that's a good mix. If you allow people to be on premises watching live sessions, and then people can join online who, I don't know, don't have the money or don't have the time.
It's also more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if you look as an employer, for 2 days, flying 8 hours back,
so
and €2,000 entry. Ignite Orlando was 5 days, 2,500 entrance. It's a better value for money than the shuttle thing, and I think that's something less people are going because 2 days and 2 days fly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the key things. But to finish up, there is next year a next Ignite.
Yeah, I think it's announced, right?
Yeah,
It's
they
already
announced it.
announced.
It's on the 15th and 16th of November next year, 15 or 16 November. So if you want to join Microsoft Ignite, reserve that dates already in your calendar. Then we need to finish up.
Yeah.
Are we missed something?
We probably missed a lot of things. And that's actually the challenge with an event like this. There's a lot of information coming, picking out what's interesting, making the distinct between what's marketing talk and what's interesting for us as IT guys. That will always be challenging, especially with vendor events. And that's not only related to Microsoft, but every vendor.
We only look at our own focus, but we didn't mention Azure. And everything is Azure. So what's new in Azure? You cannot get up what Kenneth says on everything.
Yeah. So I think, France, we are going to do this much more often. So we have a lot of time to cover also those topics.
Yeah, what we will do with this podcast, we have local meetups here in the Netherlands. Then we will pick our gear and have also a recording on a specific topic. And probably we can have a much more deep dive on a specific topic later on. And if you, as a listener, if you want to know more about a specific topic, please let us know. That can be done through our socials and so on. Please reach out, and then we will pick up a specific point and make a deep dive of it so you can learn. So be aware, there will be a next version of this podcast in the next few months. So keep an eye on that. Thank you for listening and see you next time.